What is going on, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this awesome Fortnite style design in Photoshop today. We're also going to be going into Illustrator just very briefly, but it's mostly this tutorial is going to be in Photoshop. Alright, so to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to get our paint bucket tool, and we're just going to pick a very dark purple color. It's going to be almost black, not exactly, but just like right above black. So if you guys want, you can copy the hex code on the screen here if you guys want to use the exact same color. I believe it's hex code 00000E. And once we have that, we're going to be using our guide here. So hit Control R on your keyboard and just bring that over to the middle. And if we go back to this example here, you can see that what I did was I used these sort of I don't really know how to describe it. It looks almost like a wave, I guess. So to get the shape down, you just use your pen tool. You guys can kind of see the technique of what I'm doing, but where I'm using my pen tool. But this is basically the technique you want to use. And then make sure that your end point is in the middle of the ruler, which is I think right here. Looks good. And we're just going to connect it like that. And we're going to go to our gradient overlay right here. So for the gradient overlay for the colors I used, you guys can see right here, it was like a deep purple to like a lighter pastel looking purple. Again, hex codes are on the screen if you guys want to copy the exact colors I used. Alright, and once we have that set, we're going to create another one that's just right above it. I'm just going to adjust this right here, make sure it's not showing. So pen tool, we're going to click here, and then we're just going to click just like right over it. And click and drag too, make sure you guys do that. It'll make your lives a lot easier with creating the shapes. And again, we're going to double click, gradient overlay. This time we're going to hit reverse so that it's different colors, the gradients are different. And we're going to put it behind that layer that we just created first. And if you look, you can see that it gives it this really cool looking, I don't even know, it's just like a really cool effect when you have the gradients layered on top of each other like that, which I really like a lot. And if you guys are wondering why like the reference picture, like the reference photo that I did earlier, it was, you know, different in color, the reason why is because that was just after color correction, so we're gonna go over how to do that too. But anyways, to get these shapes, the abstract looking shapes that kind of have like this glass look to them, in order to do that, you're just gonna go to your rectangle tool right here, and we're gonna create a square. And we're going to fill this with just again like a dark purple. And what I'm actually going to do is get our color scheme out onto the banner here. This is the color scheme that I used. I didn't use a lot of it. I only used this color scheme really in the lines, like the final finishing touch, but I just like to have it open just for like a nice guideline. So again, we're going to go to our square here, and we're just going to take our pen tool, and right on the corner we're going to create a point, and right above that point another one, and then just go across like this. What you're basically doing is creating a rectangle shape on the bottom, and we're going to change the fill to something that's just darker so it gives it a shadow. Perfect. So now we're going to create a trapezoid shape on the sides. So what we're going to do here is again a pen tool on the corner, and we're going to hold shift when we do this and just create this nice line right here and basically make it again a trapezoid shape. And for this, this color we're gonna use a lighter color, so this is gonna be a highlight. So you can see my color scheme over on the right side. I'm just gonna pick that purple, and after we get that fill in, we're gonna go ahead and create a copy of that same trapezoid shape, and we're gonna just reflect it over on this side. So now we have highlights on both sides of this square, and we're just gonna fill this top piece in with another shadow. So again, same process. And there we go. So now we have this kind of cool looking square here. In order to get this glass effect that I had going on, what we're going to do is be using our eraser tool. And I just want to make sure I have all my layers here. Okay, alright, so this is our bottom layer. So what we're going to do is again, rasterize the layer, no big deal. And we're just going to start erasing with our eraser tool. Personally, I like to use like a decent size eraser. It doesn't have to be super small. When it's super small, it actually kind of gets more difficult to create the effect. Just make sure that your eraser is on 0% hardness and just lightly kind of on the side of the square, right? Like not directly on it, but just like here and there on the corners, we're going to go ahead and erase So again, same deal on this side, and as you can see, it's starting to get that glass looking shape. Again, it's not fully there yet, but we're starting to see it in the edges of the shape. And we're actually gonna make this a darker color. We're gonna go ahead and just drop this down like so. I'm going for like kind of a muted purple as well, muted dark purple. So I think right here it looks good. And then what we're also gonna do is lower the opacity of this. And that's basically it. That's how you get this glass looking square. I'm just making some adjustments here, touching it up here and there. Alright, so here what I'm doing is I'm just grouping all the layers together, and I'm just going to name it glass square. And I'm just grouping the gradients that we created earlier as well. And I'm just labeling these too, just so we can keep track of everything. So also what you can do is just go ahead and duplicate this layer again and make it all one layer by pressing Ctrl E and just taking the group below it and making sure it's turned off, and just rename it backup, just so you have a backup version of this, so it's less destructive. And what we're just gonna do here is I'm minimizing it, I'm flipping it so it looks like a diamond, and I'm just going to be duplicating it over and just creating a nice pattern. That looks good enough. So now here I'm going to import the Fortnite character that I'm going to be using. So if you guys are wondering where I got this, I don't remember the site off the top of my head, but I'm going to leave a link in the description below this video if you guys want to check it out. They have all of this Fortnite skins, they have all the icons and stuff, and you can just download everything as just a PNG file and bring it right into your project file. So now what we're going to be doing is actually going into Illustrator. Now I have the stock saved from when I did it, but I am going to just make a new one from scratch just for the tutorial for you guys. Fairly easy how to do this technique. And what we are going to do is we're going to take our polygon tool and we're just going to make a shape, and we're going to hold Control and Shift, and we're going to bring up the transform here, as you can see on my screen, and we're just going to change the polygon properties to 3 sides so it creates a triangle. And then we're just going to flip this. We don't want a fill, but we do want a stroke, and we want that stroke to be a gradient. So remember that you want your stroke to be a gradient, not a solid color. You guys can see the gradient that I used on my screen here is just a dark purple to a black. So once you have your colors, what you want to do is go over to the stroke settings and make the weight something very big, like 9 points would be good, or 10 points would be good. And we're just gonna minimize this, shrink it down, and go to distort and transform, effect, distort and transform, and we're going to change the copies to 56, and we're gonna turn preview on and turn up horizontal to 107%, and just start changing the angle. And you'll notice, you guys can see on my screen here, this is pretty crazy, each small little adjustment to the angle creates a huge difference in the shapes that you get, and you get these crazy looking patterns and shapes. I don't remember which one I used originally, so we're just gonna use just a random one that I think looks cool. So this one looks really cool, 188 degrees. You guys can copy that if you want. We're gonna use this stock for our banner. And what we're going to do from here is we're just going to go to Object and go to Expand Appearance, so it makes this all one shape. And we're going to move this into our Photoshop project file. And for now, I'm just going to hide this layer just because we're not ready to use it yet. We still have to copy everything over and transfer it to the right side. So we're going to do that right now. So once we have everything here, what we're going to do is use the abstract stock that we just created right here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it below all of our layers. but we're gonna put it above the background, but just above all the layers that we created. And we're gonna increase the size of this by a lot. We're just gonna make it stretch, so we're gonna do that by holding Alt and taking the side and dragging the sides like this, so it doesn't distort the image, but it makes sure that it expands. And you guys are gonna see me change this throughout the video. Honestly, just change it to however you like it, what your preference is. Don't take everything I do completely literally. Like, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be exactly the same as mine. You guys can do whatever you want. You guys can tweak whatever you want. This is just a nice guideline for you guys to follow in case you want to make this sort of banner. Alright, so once that's all set, we're going to start with color correction, and I'm just using my other version of this that I created before this as an example. So we're going to use brightness and contrast, and it looks like we went into -2 for brightness and 47 into contrast. And I'm just going to make sure that this guy's above all of our color correction layers. We don't want to change the color of him. So again, just referencing the old version. I don't know why I put levels here, because I didn't change the adjustment or anything, so never mind the levels. We're gonna go into curves, so you guys can see that we adjusted the blue. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to curves, and from switch RGB to blue, and just go ahead and drag it up a little bit, not too much. And we went into exposure. Exposure looks like we went into 38. And color balance, so yep, it was 40 into magenta and it looks like it was 24 in blue. And from there we're going into color lookup. Now for color lookup, we use the Fuji Eterna 250D. I don't know how to pronounce it, probably butchered that, but that's what we went into color lookup with. I believe it's the first one of the Fuji ones, which is right there, so it gives it that pinkish tint that I remember I was mentioning earlier. So what we're doing here is we're just actually going to lower the opacity of this so that it gives it that nice tint to it, and it's lowered to 62%. And after that, we're going to create our highlights on these glass shapes. So throughout the video, you guys are probably looking at the glass like, what the heck, like, why is it blending in so much? It's actually because that we didn't put the highlights on top of them. So to do that, brush tool, 0% hardness, and we're just going to size down our brush with the bracket keys to the point where it fits these shapes perfectly. And we're just going to create just a nice little bit of white on them. And what I'm actually going to do with one of these, the square that's right behind him, I don't actually need, so I'm actually going to get rid of that. So we're going to go to the layer and go to our rectangular marquee tool, and we're just going to create a selection around the shape we want deleted and just hit backspace. So that'll delete that shape. We don't have to worry about it. And we have the highlights on these on the shapes on the left side, so we're going to get those highlights in on the shapes on the right side. So again, we're staying on the same layer, just grabbing our brush tool right where we left off and just doing the same thing. And after that, we're going to switch our blend mode to overlay. I'm just going to duplicate this layer so it creates more intense lighting around it. So you guys can now see the shapes perfectly clear, which is great. I'm just going around these I'm just going around these highlights with my eraser tool and softening them up a bit so they're not too crazy, but they're just nicely just on the shape. They just fit perfectly around the shape, I guess is what I'm trying to say. English is a tough language. We're going to create the top lighting. So to create the top lighting, what we're going to do is, again, brush tool, and we're just going to create this crazy brush, this huge brush. We're going to size it up with our bracket keys, and we're going to go right above the banner and click, and we're just going to duplicate that like 4 or 5 times over, and make sure the blend mode is on overlay when you do that, and it's going to create this nice light in the background. And once we have all of our layers selected, we're going to group them together and just name it top light, just to keep track of everything. So using the text tool, I'm just going to type in Fortnite, and I'm using the Amboy text, I think that's what it's called. It's in the type kit, so you guys should have it if you have Adobe Photoshop. We're going to place this in the middle. I'm actually going to use my guides just so I can see where it is. So I'm just going to drag that right there. Perfect, nice and centered. And after that, we have to add the gradient effect on this text. So it looks like we used a very pastel looking purple and a very pastel looking blue. It's kind of muted. So I'm gonna go into the gradient overlay here, and we're going to go to a very pastel purple. So again, you guys can copy these hex codes on my screen if you want. And we're just gonna go to, I'm gonna go to the blues right here. And again, make it very light but muted at the same time. And we're gonna go to drop shadow, and I'm gonna increase the drop shadow of this to something like 16. And if you guys are wondering, the blue I'm using for it, it's right there, that hex code. And so there we go, there's our text. It looks just like the other one, so that's good. Alright, so now I'm just gonna add the social media icons in, and we're just gonna use Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for this. If you guys are wondering where I got these social media icons from, they are from a graphics pack. I only use the graphics pack for these social media icons. And the one I'm using is the Timpers 4K graphics pack. Again, I'll leave a description in the video where you guys can download that. One thing I am going to add to the text, however, is an outer glow, and I'm going to be using a blue, light blue, and I'm going to use the blend mode on soft light and turn up the size of it nicely so you have a nice glow around the text. And you guys can copy the settings on my screen if you want. And we're just going to go ahead and do an outer glow for the Instagram icon as well. Alright, so once your social media icons are in, we are looking good, but one thing I want to do is just lower the opacity of the abstract image that we added, the abstract stock that we did in Illustrator, just a little bit, down to probably like 70%. And so now I'm going to import the particle texture that I used in the previous version, so I'm going to leave a link in the description for you guys to download that and to bring it in here. And we're going to make the blend mode linear dodge. And then after that, we're just going to take our eraser tool, make sure you're on 0% hardness again. But before that, I'm just going to modify the hue and saturation by hitting Control U on my keyboard on the layer and making it just like a nice purplish pink. Take our eraser tool and just erase bits of it here and there so it looks nice. Now what I'm going to do is just duplicate it by holding Alt, clicking and dragging. And I'm just going to make the other one on the top right here. And again, I'm just going to erase bits of it so it looks nice. Alright, so for the last part of this banner, what we're just going to do is add those lines that we have. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and use our color scheme here as a guide for what colors to use. So to do this, we're just going to use our pen tool, make a point on the bottom, hold shift and make another point that's reaching out. So this is going to be the point that sticks out. And then we're going to make another point on the bottom again, one that's like closer to the bottom point, so that it's narrow, it's not too fat looking. And for the fill, again, we're just going to follow the color scheme that we have on the right side here. So I'm going to actually make it this dark blue here. This looks really nice. And then same process, and I'm just going to make this the dark purple. And one thing you can also do is change the perspective of it. So to do that, you actually free transform and you just go to the corner point and you don't hold shift, you just hold it and drag it. That will change the perspective of the shape so it looks like it's coming at the text. And so now we're just going to do that same process on the right side. I'm just going to make it a little different, but same technique, so I'm just actually going to speed through this for you guys. And once that's done, I'm again just going to make a nice adjustment to the particles, erase some of it just so it's not too crazy. And after that, that's pretty much it. So this is the final version of the banner. I had a lot of fun making this. Very cool theme. I really liked it, and I hope you guys liked it as well. I hope you guys pick something up from this video that you can use in just your projects, in the work you do for clients, or if it's just work you're doing for fun, for yourself. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you guys in the next tutorial video. Make sure you drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I really appreciate that, and I will see you guys next time.